Hi everyone, it's Rob Watson, the module leader for TECH2503 Community Media Production. This is a short overview of the topics that we'll be covering in the fifth lecture, and this week we'll be looking at the sustainability issues that we've been discussing over the last few weeks, and we'll be looking at those in the context of Leicester and looking at some specific information about the social profile of Leicester and how that has changed and is changing, and what kind of things have influenced that and what kind of challenges there are out there. So we'll start off by kind of really thinking about the idea that, you know, it's looking at the guy Jim Ive, who's I'd absolutely recommend reading the book, Jim Ive's book, which is Community Development in an Uncertain World, because it lays out in very easy to understand terms and in some detail the challenges about community development and why it's relevant to, I think you'll see clearly from reading it, why it's relevant to issues about community media. So one of the things that Jim Ive talks about is there's a crisis in our human services. They've been pushed aside and relegated in terms of importance, but in actual fact they are ever more important as we deal with the outcome of a fractious, industrialised, globalised, productised social environment. The challenge is, though, you can't really turn back the time. And where people get their sense of social identity from is sometimes a kind of nostalgic view of a life that is gone, a life that is past. And in a way, we need to think about how we can get a perspective and an angle on where we will be heading and what it is that we need to support and promote in terms of the perspectives that we need to take about life as it will emerge in the coming years in Leicester. So it's things like, you know, kind of the things that underpin this are kind of civic contingencies. And at the moment, in a way, local authorities with the austerity agenda are reduced to providing just the bare essentials to keep the place ticking over. They're not really given the resources and the freedom to invest and to shape the future. It's left to the marketplace almost exclusively as a way of thinking about public safety, thinking about improvement of children's services, thinking about the streets and transport and tackling congestion and people's, addiction to the motor car and the kind of environmental degradation that might cause. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this in some detail in terms of some of the statistics that I've drawn together from the census data and from other places. So the last main census was in 2011. So in a place like Leicester, things change quite rapidly within a 10-year period and have done. But Leicester is one of the most diverse cities in the country, and over 52% of the population in Leicester are from non-white indigenous backgrounds. They have a heritage from other areas, from other internationally, whether that's from Eastern Africa, Somalia, whether it's from India, Pakistan, whether it's from Malaysia, whether it's from Eastern Europe, Poland, Romania, those kind of countries. So it's a very diverse population in Leicester. And actually one of the facts about Leicester is that the English is the first language it's one of the highest rates of areas in the country that have people who don't speak English as their first language, something like 11%, which when you compare with Nottingham is about 4%. So does that represent a significant challenge in the way we provide services and the way that we manage the city and the way that we develop the environment and we develop the kind of media approach and the kind of collaborative approach to culture in the city? But this ties in also with kind of significant issues about health. And Leicester isn't a healthy place to be. It has significant issues with obesity. It has significant issues with diabetes. It has significant issues to do with cancer, survival rates from cancer, heart disease. It's not a very fit environment for people to live in. So people aren't generally their well-being is quite low. It has high levels of smoking. And this can be tied to the the kind of dominant economic model in Leicester is low paid service work, so warehouses, factories, shops, those kind of things, as opposed to the kind of more expensive kind of graduate, kind of knowledge economies jobs, or the kind of traditional professions, if you like. So the economic issues in the city are quite significant, and kind of how the city is dealing with these issues by trying to attract inward investment is quite important. When we look at the housing stock, it's difficult to attract inward investment to Leicester because it doesn't have a particularly modern housing stock. It doesn't have a particularly modern transport infrastructure. It's kind of it lags behind, if you like, other similar kinds of cities, particularly in Western Europe. For the size of the city, it has quite limited resources, and it has quite a limited kind of social space, a kind of what we call a civic realm, or is being called a civic realm. So we'll look at some of the kind of services that the city, crime levels, educational attainment levels, and then ask the question kind of what do we mean by social cohesion in this context, and what the approaches to social cohesion and community cohesion have been in the past, and how that is shaped the kind of present way of thinking about community media and the role that community media can play. So if we go back to those principles of community development, about change from below, about a process of relationship between global and local factors, a political, social, economic play of civic values and virtues. And we'll look at the idea, we'll kind of ask some questions about the kind of foundation of community development in Leicester as a kind of, what can we do on the basis of a progressive form of social justice that sees people not just given, offered the opportunity, equal opportunity, but given the resources to meet that opportunity, which is often the side of the coin about merit, which is often displaced and discarded. So there's a lot for us to talk about as usual. The notes are up on the DMU Commons wiki, so just go to wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk. You can download them as a PDF there. If there's any diagrams, I'll include them in the notes, essential diagrams. And we've got a workshop planned for you for this week as usual, and so I will speak to you on Tuesday.